All right, Paul, welcome to the Sipping Point.
Thank you, Laurie. Good to see you again.
Absolutely. Well, we met years ago at the wine festival in Charleston, and I had the chance to talk to you a little bit about the wines of Chateau D'Esclans. So I'm honored to have you here. And I'd love for you to tell us a little bit. I gave your bio, but your background is so impressive. I know all these great names like Chateau Margaux and Louis Latour and places, Veuve Clicquot, where you've worked. How did you get to even want to be in the wine business from the beginning?
Ooh, that's a that's a long story. As you can hear, I speak relatively good English. I grew up in actually New England, outside of Boston, and when I was a very young man, I moved to France. I was probably 19 years old or so, and I went to university there to become a winemaker. And I think that this journey in life, no matter where you go, if you really keep focused, and I always had this idea of obviously I wanted to make wine, but I wanted to make something a little bit different. So I was very fortunate to encounter a gentleman. His name is Sacha Lachine. I met him actually in Bordeaux. He's a couple years older than me, and it was Sacha who came up with the idea of moving to Provence, selling his father's property in Margaux, Prairie-les-Chines, and investing in Chateau d'Esclans back in 2006. Wow, as time flies, because next year will be our 20th vintage, 20th anniversary of Whispering Angel.
Wow, that's amazing. And I'm sure, you see all of the different reports out there in the wine industry, people drinking less, maybe younger people not being attracted to wine. But the one area of the wine industry that has been so strong is Rosé, and your brand specifically. You guys seem to keep growing, whereas others are maybe not seeing that. Tell me, how did Whispering Angel get this cult-like status?
Well, to be honest, is in the beginning when we started, and this is first vintage was 2006. There were very few people actually drinking rosé, and rosé had a pretty horrible reputation, especially in the U.S. of being associated with sort of sweet white Zinfandel blush and those sorts of things. So the idea was, if you could make a quality product, which I think we do, is how do you spread the word? And this was Sash, very much Sasha's vision. It was to take it to all the right places, and the right places are where it's places that are maybe a bit iconic, but also places where people sort of want to be. So we started in America specifically because I guess in the US people had a little bit more of an open mind, an open attitude to try something new, less of a perceived conception about what wine could be. And going to places like Nantucket, maybe the Hamptons, and then in the winter season in Miami and so forth, we're able to start to spread the word. But it was really about liquid to lips. And also, it's about being inclusive, which means welcoming everybody into our community. And that's really, really important. And we can talk a little bit about this younger generation, maybe who are drinking a little bit less. I'm a firm believer it's our responsibility to welcome them into the world of wine.
Oh, I love that. And I love the idea of inclusivity as well. And so you kind of went where the trends are made, I guess, if you want to think of it that way, Nantucket and the Hamptons, and then everything sort of spread out from there. I'm not sure I know the answer to this. Whispering Angel, where does the name come from? What does it signify?
Okay, it's a very good question. People ask quite often. So at the chateau, which is Chateau d'Esclans, we're in the valley of Esclans in the hills north of Saint-Tropez, about let's say 45 minutes inland. Is there on the the right side of the chateau, there's a chapel. And inside the chapel, and it's not unusual because we're in France, France and Italy and Spain, sort of traditional sort of Catholic Christian sort of countries, chateaus would have their own little chapel. And above the altar of this chapel were these two faces of these cherubs in stone, in actually white limestone. And Sasha was in there one night, I think it was with Patrick Léon, and they're sort of maybe having a glass of wine. They looked at that and they said, that could make a really cool label. And maybe after a second glass of wine, they said, wow, if you look really closely, it looks like one of the cherubs, and I guess angels are not he's or she's, so one of the cherubs would say, that one looks like he or she is whispering to the other one. So that's sort of where the name came on. And then probably a lot of people say, why in English? Not American, but in English. Is because angel in French is quite easy. Angel is ange, but whisper is murmure. or chuchotes. So les anges qui chuchotent or murmure didn't sound very good in French, but it's certainly whispering angel in English. Just it resonated, and I think
Mm,
that's where it came from. But it was yeah, I'm not saying I wouldn't say we got lucky, but it certainly helped to really elevate and accelerate our sales with Whispering Angel. We first began because it was such a challenge selling rosé 20 years ago, not just in America, everywhere in the world. So
right.
Whispering Angel today is in over 100 countries.
Well, wine can be such a great spark for creativity, I find. So it sounds like that's what they had in that moment, right? They had that unique setting and that stroke of genius. Maybe we take the Whispering Angel and make that our brand. And it certainly has stuck. And I do remember the days where everyone here in America thought rosé was white Zinfandel and sweet. And so it was such a struggle to get people to try all the amazing dry rosés that you have in France. But now that's changed. And we were joking before we came on here, rosé all day. You'll see all over social media because rosé has just kind of captured a lifestyle that people want to attain, or maybe just for the day, that idea of relax and pretend you're in Provence.
Yeah, and I think we're again 20 years sounds like a long time, but in reality, it's not. So it's really taken us 20 years to not only, I wouldn't say we created the category, but certainly to reignite it, or renaissance would probably be a better term. The question now is, and this is something I'm working on, is what are the next 20 years going to look like? And I believe, and I think this is, and Rosé is certainly a vehicle that can help, is this is where it becomes more than just the swimming pool, pink flamingos and unicorn kind of drink. It becomes more serious. What does that mean? It means around the table, traditional
Mm-hmm.
holidays, and I don't know, in America, it'd be Thanksgivings and whatever religion, Christmas or whatever it may be. And then the rituals, which have been going on for centuries about wine, food, celebration. And I think maybe there's a little bit of a disconnect there that we've kind of gotten away from. So when we say the younger generation aren't drinking so much, I think we shouldn't confuse historical, let's say, a fermented beverage versus a distilled beverage. And wine
Mm-hmm.
is very different to other types of, I mean, I have nothing against tequila, vodka, and those types of things, but a little bit of a different consumption.
Absolutely. And we've been talking so much about the Whispering Angel. I feel like we should taste it as well and talk a little bit about that. And what I used to say years ago when I was just really trying to get people to try it is, if you closed your eyes and you tasted a well-made rosé from Provence, which of course the Whispering Angel is, you might think it's a white wine because it is crisp, because it's light, it's dry. The whole idea of it isn't what you might imagine, right? Because you're ready for the sweetness, you're ready for something that it's absolutely not. How would you? And I know this is a blend of three grapes, and we have the Grenache, the Cinsault, and then Vermentino. Tell me a little bit about how, if somebody isn't a rosé adopter, I can't imagine they're not, but if they aren't, how you describe it to them to kind of, get people to give it a try.
Okay, sure. And I think it's a very good point. So what we're trying to do, and this was really Patrick Léon that helped us in the early, now it's his son Bertrand who took over because Patrick has passed away, but it was really about how do you create a product, being wine, with very little color, almost pale, almost transparent, but that has more. And through our vineyard management and specifically technology, we've been able to pick our grapes a little bit riper and then really keep it precise and focused. So the way I describe Whispering Angel is the Grenache gives you the fruit. Fruit would be like any red grape, red berry fruits and strawberries and berries and cherries and so forth. The Vermentino, which we call roll in France, gives you a little bit of the floral, the aromatic, and a little bit of the lift. It has a little bit of viscosity. So if you actually look at the glass,
Mm-hmm.
you'll see what we call these sort of legs or tiers. That could be, in the case of certain wines, it could be a lot of sugar. But as you mentioned, all of these wines, Whispering Angel, everything we produce at Chateau D'Esclans have zero sugar. I mean, literally zero. It's like 0.05 grams. It's some of the driest styles which exist. So the way I describe the wine in the mouth is it fills your mouth and it goes down like this. So what it does is it coats the side of your mouth. No bitterness, no astringency, no bite, and smooth, easy drinking.
Hmm.
That's very difficult to do. I joke about this as you know, Whispering Angel, before you know it, you drink the whole glass. And it is very, it's easy, and which is a good thing in moderation, obviously. So if you can produce these styles of rosé that give you satisfaction, then you start connecting with your community, your wine community. So you mentioned white wine. I do love, I mean, I love all wine, but white wine can be sometimes a little bit light and maybe a little
Hmm.
bit acidic. We're in the south of France. So there's a little bit less acidity. Some people don't really like acidity. So it's a little smoother, a little easier to drink, zero sugar. So we don't have to worry about that. And then a little bit of a satisfying finish. So think about this. Since we're using predominantly red grapes, Grenache, and so forth, but the skin contact is very short, less than 3 hours. In your mouth, it starts like a white wine, but finishes a little bit like a red wine.
Yes.
Sort of gives you the kick comes in, if you like,
Hmm.
gives you the satisfaction. And so many people, for whatever reason, choose not to drink red wine. I don't know, maybe because it's too heavy or it's too hot out or gives you a headache or all sorts of, my family are from Bordeaux. I drink a lot of red wine, but there are people that choose not to. Apparently,
Hmm.
there's actually a trend towards white wine and rosé these days. I understand why, because people eat a little lighter, and these wines are a little bit lighter and so forth. So I think that's why our styles of rosé have done so well is we really connect with these consumers. And last but not least is you don't need to be a sommelier or a master of wine to understand this, right? It's pretty simple. A couple
Right.
grapes, the color is light, no sugar, gives you the satisfaction. So whether you're, I don't know, sort of a Gen Z, 20, 25 years old, all the way to my mother or something being, 95, pleases all generations. And I think
Hmm.
it's cool and crosses a little bit of the barriers of wine being complicated, difficult to understand, makes you a little embarrassed because you don't know. It checks all the boxes, if you see what I mean. I think that's part of the success of Whispering Angel.
I do too. I think I don't know if I would say democratized, but it's something that everybody can come together. The name, of course, is very certainly here in the US. It's easy to say. French wines can be intimidating for a lot of people because we worry we're going to say them wrong. I always say if you can't pronounce it, you should be drinking it. So don't worry, just go ahead, go for it. If someone corrects you, fine, you'll learn. You'll learn after a few times. But it is that wine that you could cross generations, and because rosé is seen not only at the dinner table, because I like it with meals all year round, but also in fun places that are maybe a little, as like, oh, you don't have to be a millionaire to drink Whispering Angel. You might have it at a sporting event, or you might have it at a picnic, or you could have it at a wonderful fancy meal. It can kind of be where you want it to be.
It does, and we've been very careful, over the years with even pricing. It depends again if you where you shop and so forth. But even today, if you're a savvy shopper and you probably look around, you can probably find a bottle of Whispering Angel for around $20. So I always say, if you have a $20 bill in your pocket, that gets you a bottle of Whispering Angel. And that today is also not that easy because wine prices have really gone up a lot.
Hmm.
Especially the big names of, Bordeaux's and Napas and Burgundies and Super Tuscanies and so forth. And I think that's also part of the inclusiveness because it does welcome people into the wine family. But our ultimate goal, and I think this is important, maybe it leads us on to the next wine is in Sasha's mind when we first started, he says, Paul, I want to make the greatest rosé in the world. I want to make great rosé. I want to make something that no one's ever done before. Okay, how are we going to do that? And then number one, and then we did, and we came up with these cuvées. And then the question is not how to make it. Okay, we're winemakers. We know how to make wine, but then how do you sell it? How do you get people to buy it? And I guess it just has to be really good, and you have to believe in the product, and then you have to get the word out. So, we're tasting in London not too long ago, doing a vertical tasting of some past vintages of what we make, and Sasha says, "We're not trying to change the world. We're just trying to get the word out."
Well, you may have changed the world of wine a little bit over the last 20 years. And as we see rosé so front and center now, and like you said, white and rosés are trending a little bit up, whereas red may be trending a little bit down. So I find that interesting as well. You mentioned food before we move to the next wine, the Garris, if I'm saying that right, a sort of a more age-worthy bolder style that I'm really excited for you to tell me more about. What's your favorite foods to have with a Whispering Angel?
Excellent question. So Whispering Angel is probably the most versatile wine for food, if you have an open mind. So think about where we're from. We're from south of Provence, south of France, and the Mediterranean lifestyle. So obviously the first thing would be, traditional Mediterranean cuisine of salad niçoise and sort of thing. Okay. That obviously that all works. But then if you continue, right, and you continue into, some of the Latin countries, maybe it's in Spain, right, where you have all the charcuterie and the hams and the sausages and salty things and nuts and things. Works with that. Continue on the other side into like the Middle East and I don't know, maybe Lebanon. There's a famous chef in the UK I really love. His name is Ottolenghi. He made the Jerusalem cookbook. All that flavorful, spicy style of cuisine. Rosé holds up quite well to that. Continue your journey like Marco Polo, and then you're going off into Asia someplace, and all of a sudden think about, I don't know, spicy Thai and a lot of that cuisine. Rosé works. Continue to Japan. I was just in a beautiful sushi restaurant yesterday. Sushi, sashimi, works with that. Circle back through California, fresh vegetables and all that type of works with that. And I think even to a certain extent, I mean, I don't eat a lot of meat, but I eat meat. So why not some beautiful grass-fed beef and things like that, rare. So steak tartare. So really, it really crosses all the sort of the food options and it makes your life easy. Or in all simplicity, I don't know, maybe just Friday night sitting on the couch with a bag of potato chips and some dip. I don't know.
Right. Or some pepperoni pizza, maybe. Love that. All right. So you also sent me another one of your rosés that this is a new one to me.
Yes.
So I'm very excited. I know that in doing a little research that Sasha wanted the Garris to be sort of the top of the line or sort of a cuvee, if you will, that was maybe on another level of rosé.
100%. This is our tête de cuvée, I guess you'd call it. And this is where the innovation, and this is where we really become very, very, very different. And I'll give you a little bit of a kind of a quick sort of resume or summary of this. Most rosés, the vast majority of rosés, 99%, if not more, are produced in stainless steel tanks. Same as champagne. All the champagne names that you would know, the Pommeries and the Tattingers and the Mums and the Wets and Clicquots and all that, all made in stainless steel tanks. But there's a few exceptions. In the world of champagne, if you were to go back in time, this goes back almost towards the just after the Second World War, way back in how old I am. In the old days, and some people in Champagne would use oak barrels. And there's still a few houses that do, being the ones that come to mind would be Bollinger, Krug, Alfred Gracia, and so forth. The style of Champagne, I'm not saying it's better or not, it's just a style. The style that's made is a little bit richer, fuller, what we call in French, vineux. So Patrick Léon came up with this idea is, what if you were to take from our vineyards, old vine, same grapes, essentially Grenache and Vermentino, but old vine, 80, 90, 100-year-old vineyards. Take that juice, same process as Whispering Angel, 3-hour skin contact, but instead of putting it in stainless steel, put the juice in these oak barrels, French oak, what we call a demi-muid, or large 600-liter French oak barrels, and leave it for a year. So that's a crazy idea. Rosé in an oak barrel for a year. And the result was very experimental. I think the first year we made like 3 barrels or something really small. Sasha's a pretty funny guy. He said, Patrick, it better taste good because if we can't sell it, at least we can drink it.
Right.
And it was expensive because it's expensive to make these wines. So the result was a new style of rosé, which all of a sudden became more. So think about Whispering Angel and looking through a glass of Whispering Angel with a magnifying glass. I want to say Alice in Wonderland, but it just, everything except the color gets bigger. So you have a bigger, number one, you have more legs and tears, you have bigger nose, you have bigger aroma, and you have more complexity. What does that mean? Instead of being simplistic, which is essentially just, most rosés are fruity, which is not a bad thing. Now you have all sorts of different things. You have toasty and you have ginger and vanilla. And before you know it, you close your eyes. Now you definitely would not know you're drinking rosé. You close your eyes, you could be in Burgundy somewhere between Meursault and Chassagne-Montrachet or drinking some, I don't know, 30, 40-year-old champagne that was just opened from the cellars or something. So it was very innovative, experimental, and it was all about creating something which is more like a real wine, more like a, not that rosé isn't wine, but something more. And as I said, it's taken us 20 years to really not get the word out, but for the market to be ready today to accept that rosé can be something else than the afternoon swimming pool wine. There's nothing wrong with that. But this
Hmm.
becomes more about fine dining and gastronomy. And that's where the big difference is. Because the wine is more opulent, it's fuller. The mouthfeel is very,
Yeah, the creaminess of it was like, wow, okay, I didn't
and the length.
expect that.
So
Yes.
bigger, fuller, richer, yet still has the smooth. It's no longer has a lot of minerality. It's a little bit sharper and a little bit more power. So because the wine is fuller, bigger, richer, more opulent, now it holds up to fuller, richer types of cuisine. Which takes me to a next subject. So, why does rosé have to be a summertime drink? Because rosé, historically, you would go to Provence, summer holiday. I mean, we're getting into season now. Everybody wants to go to Saint-Tropez and those places in the summertime. Beautiful ocean, it's fantastic. But nobody drank rosé really after September when everybody went back to school, back to work. But you drink white wine in the winter. You drink champagne in the winter. So why
Hmm.
wouldn't you drink rosé if the rosé had enough body, had enough structure to hold up to winter types of foods? So for me, this style of wine all of a sudden is, depending on where you live, we get into the fall. The fall is the mushroom season, it's the truffle season. Now maybe the sauce becomes a little bit more creamy and butter, all the things I shouldn't be eating. All those things that are richer and fuller. Well, that's not a rosé type of cuisine. But
Hmm.
oh, now it is, because now you have a bigger style of rosé that holds up to those types of dishes. And as I said earlier, think about this style of rosé for those of you who do eat meat. The first thing that comes to mind would be baby lamb chops, duck, filet mignon on the grill, or in French we have the foie gras. But before the foie gras, you have the foie frais, which you put it in the pan, you sear it on both sides, you put it on top of the filet mignon, the beef, it becomes the tourne
Mm.
Rossellini. So all this type of cuisine, which is, I mean, this is fine dining. I mean, this is, I don't know, truffle risotto. And so that traditionally is not rosé dishes, would not be rosé dishes. So it really is breaking down these barriers. It's taking time because there's a little bit of, I'll be honest, there's a little bit of resistance out there. It's people saying, well, that's expensive. No, rosé doesn't belong in fine dining Michelin star restaurants. Well, if it tastes good, why not?
Right. And what remind me the retail on this one? I know $20 if
So
you're
we go for
lucky on
20
the
and
Whispering
something
Angel.
like this, it's probably more like $100. So it's
Okay.
that becomes we're in the range of vintage champagne or I mean Burgundies or the top Napa red wines and Bordeaux's and so forth.
Hmm.
I'm not saying again, I have my family from Bordeaux. I'm not criticizing red wine. It just gives you a different option if you choose not to, especially for these celebration types of special occasions. And I think that's again, it's about being inclusive. I'll tell you a funny story. It's my family in Bordeaux, so we have a traditional Christmas dinner, and we have a long, long table. The older people like myself and so the grandfather, not that I am, but the grandfather sort of people sit in the middle, and then the younger ones, the children, not children but in their 20s and so forth, sit at the end, and that's just part of the whole process, right? And all the food comes and the beautiful we have traditional Christmas is it's usually a it's like Thanksgiving in the US. It's a turkey stuffed and all that, which is beautiful, and we usually have beautiful bottles of Bordeaux on the table and so forth. My little nephew Oscar is 23 and he doesn't like red wine. So the poor guy not only is at the end of the table and he doesn't like red wine. So I put a bottle of this for him at the end of the table so he feels like he's part of the celebration and he's included in everything that we do. And that's how you teach young people how to appreciate wine is in these types of circumstances and situations.
Absolutely. And I was not sure, before I tasted it, I knew it was aged in oak. So there was going to be some of that toasty and creaminess in a rosé. And I was like, I'm not sure, but I really love it. I mean, it kind of gives it such a different quality. And immediately I was thinking like pasta with a creamy sauce. I love that you brought up truffles. That sounds fabulous. But you start thinking of different things, different types of cuisine for this. Both are great in different situations. Would you say is more age worthy than a typical steel fermented?
For sure. And I think this is the number one challenge with whether it's from Provence or wherever of rosés is in general. especially the more fruity styles, you really want to drink them on the younger side. Younger side being the first year, the first 2 years, let's say. Once you start experimenting, and what we do with this barrel fermentation is there's something magical that happens inside the barrel, because the wine, rosé, is aged on its lees, not different to white burgundies and other things, right? And stirred and so forth. And what that does, it almost protects it from oxidation. So these styles of rosés, I was doing, as I said, a vertical tasting not too long ago, going back 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, and the wines hold very, very well. Now, are they meant to age 20 years? Maybe not. That's not what they're made to do, but they do hold well. So if you choose to keep your bottle or bottles for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, not a problem. And they become actually quite interesting, because the fruitiness kind of goes away, and it develops even more interesting sort of aged characteristics. Again, very much, for me anyway, food wine. This is not I wouldn't usually just drink this in the afternoon. I would start planning my dinner, my whole menu around the wine and so forth, and then sharing, because this does take a little bit of explanation to understand. Because as I said, it's very unique. I don't know anybody else who makes anything like it, to be honest, in rosé anyway. And it's relatively new. So it's been such a fantastic project to be able to work on not one wine, but just rosé, Chateau D'Esclans, for 20 years of your life. Just do one thing,
Yes.
and it's a
I love
privilege.
that.
Yeah, it's far from over, but it's just a lot to do. And we will continue to educate. I often tell the story. I had met many years ago, Robert Mondavi, and you know his story, right? He would invite people
Yes.
with his wife over to his house. He was Italian, sort of family immigrant, and cook for them, and try my Napa Valley cab, try my wines, try my wines. Do you think anybody really knew where Napa Valley was back in 1965 and 1970? Probably not. And look where it is today, and Opus One and so forth. So I think that, it won't be me. Hopefully, I said it'll be live. But the conversation 20 years from now, I guarantee people will be talking about this. And it all began with the story of Chateau D'Esclans and Whispering Angel and Sacha Lachine. So kudos.
I love that. And if folks want to connect with the winery online, and can they visit?
Yes, very, very. So every year, and believe it or not, it's number one. It's a beautiful place. So I will warn you though, because when you come to visit, be careful, because you might like it.
You might never come home.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. So you would just look us up at Esclans, without the chateau. ESCLANS.com is our website. www.esclans.com. And just click on there and send us a little email. All of our visits, we're open to everybody, inclusive. But you have to book it. So you have to
Okay.
reserve, and it's all private tour, and we take you around, show you everything that I just tried to explain. You'll have a full tasting, and I guarantee when you leave the property, we will change your life. So you'll be
I love that. But in the meantime, if you can't get over to Provence, you certainly can find Whispering Angel.
Oh.
I don't know if there's anywhere in the US, minus maybe Utah, that you couldn't find.
I took Whispering Angel to Utah as well. So
Okay, perfect.
I was following in the footsteps of Dr. Quinn. So I've been everywhere out west. Yeah.
Yes, so great. Well, I really appreciate this. I think both of these are delicious and so very different. So it's been a great conversation just about rosé and the evolution over the last 20 years, and about your chateau and the journey you and Sasha have been on. So I just thank you so much for coming on The Sipping Point.
You're very, very welcome. So please come and visit us to the magical land of rosé all day.